Get started? Okay. Okay, I want to welcome everybody to this Ironside Minyan, care of our good friend Judah. Appreciate you putting this together. This week's parasha is Parashat Vayeshev. You know, in this week's parasha, we meet Yosef. He's about 17 years old. And right off the bat, we're introduced to his dreams. He's a dreamer. And his dream, his first dream is that there's 11 sheaves or 11 stalks of wheat that are bowing down to one stalk of wheat. And basically, it was supposed to signify the 11 brothers bowing to one brother, which is Yosef. When he came to tell him this dream, the brothers right away respond to him, "What do you think, or who do you think you are? You think that you are the king and we're like your servants and we're bowing to you?" And they were very upset with him. The Torah even actually says that they hated him. Yosef Sanui. So, I mean, before we continue with the parasha, I'm going to talk a little bit about dreams. I always like to pick a certain subject. Let's talk about dreams today. They say that, I'll give you a couple of pointers before we can go back into the parasha. They say the dreams, or having a dream, is 1/60th of prophecy. The Gemara says that it's mentioned in Masechet Brachot, Amud page 57b, Amud Nun Zayin, Daf Nun Zayin Amud Bet. It says that it's 1/60th of prophecy. It says also there's no dream that doesn't have some nonsense in it. Even though the dreams are typically a message, amen. Even though that dreams are typically a message that is given to you throughout the night, but it's always surrounded with a lot of nonsense, a lot of things that don't pertain to anything. What's interesting about dreams is that dreams, the interpretation of the dream depends on the interpreter. Did you know that? The interpretation of the dream, the outcome of the dream, depends on the person that's interpreting it. I'll explain that in a second. They say when you wake up and you say, "Oh my God, I had this crazy dream," right? How many people say that? What's the first response, the Jewish response? Chalom tov, chalom shalom. Right away you say, let it be a good dream. In other words, right away we started off, let the interpretation be a good interpretation. Why do we do that? Because apparently the way the dreams are, they're messages, and a dream actually, if we go a little bit deeper into what a dream is not like you're viewing something. When you're having a dream, it's not like you're watching a movie. If you ever realize dream, you're actually experiencing it. It's like you're living the future. Sometimes you feel like you had a dream and you were there and you felt the outcome. It's very different from prophecy. Prophecy is something that you see in the future. A dream, you experiencing the future. But there's a lot of things tied to it. You know, you have to actually, you have to act on it in order for it to come true. And the person interpreting the dream has a lot to do with the outcome of it. There's also some dreams that never get interpreted. Sometimes a person has a dream and he doesn't share it with anybody. It's like a letter that's never been opened. Dreams are messages, and they're given from up above. We are part of soul groups. Who are our soul groups? Typically it's family, friends, and then there's some other people that you're connected to from previous lives, from current lives, and there's particular souls that you're grouped with and you're attracted to. Did you ever feel like you met somebody and in a split second they could have been your best friend for 10 years? They say that's part of your soul group. That's a guy that you've met in a previous life, or your energies or your souls meet at night when they go to the heavens, and that's why you have that comfort level with them. Where sometimes you feel a person, it's a complete stranger and you don't have that feeling. There's soul groups, and sometimes your soul goes to the heavens, meets with the soul groups, and they share information with one another. They give messages to one another, and then it trickles down in a dream. And those messages, it's up to the person that has the dream whether he wants to open up that letter or not? And when you do open up that letter, it's very important who opens it up for you. I'll go a little bit more into detail about dreams. Dreams can happen in 3 stages of the night. The beginning of the night, middle of the night, or the end of the night, early morning. What's the difference between a dream that you have at midnight versus a dream that you have at 3 in the morning versus a dream that you have at 6 in the morning? They say that when the rabbis tell us that when a person has a dream in the beginning of the night, don't pay attention to it. Because it's basically your mind reviewing the entire day. It's going through everything that you went through, and you're dreaming about what went on, and it's connected to that dream. They also say it's connected to food. Food creates clouds in your brains. When you eat, the clouds come up, and sometimes the food that you eat causes you to have certain types of dreams. So in the beginning of the night, foods and the day's events cause you to have those dreams. So whatever you're dreaming in that period of time, the rabbis say, don't pay attention to it. In the middle of the night, when it's when you start to have dreams, during that time, there are mazikin. Mazikin, you can say, are bad spirits, or these angels, or these how can I say it in a different word? These agents that are available in the night, that if they have permission, they can enter your dream and make you think or see certain things. It's kind of scary, kind of weird, but it happens. By the way, if you guys don't want that to happen, they should do Shema Yisrael before you go to sleep. Shema Yisrael usually gives you good protection from things like that. But if you didn't say Shema Yisrael and you're having a crazy dream in the 3 o'clock in the morning, it's probably a little spirit playing around in your brain that night. And they say, don't pay attention to that as well. Why? Because it's not a real dream. That's not the message. However, a dream that you have early in the morning, that's the dream that you pay attention to. That's a true dream. When you wake up in the morning and you do have a dream, sometimes you wake up and you're just like, oh, I just woke up. It's like nothing. But if you woke up and you have a dream, try to remember. I'll give you some examples. I looked up a few things just to give you an example of what you can dream of. And of course, there's books and websites that can interpret it for you, and rabbis that can decipher what each dream means. But for example, there's a famous dream that they talk about in the Gemara of a person losing teeth. And when a person dreams about losing teeth, it signifies death. Okay? When a person dreams about birds, it signifies hope and aspirations. When a person dreams about dogs, that signifies Lashon Hara. Because just to let you know that a person gets reincarnated into a dog, what do dogs do all the time? They're always barking, bark, bark, bark. Why are they barking? They can't keep their mouth shut. It's because in a previous life they couldn't keep their mouth shut either. Lashon Hara non-stop. So when you have that in your dream, it lets you know that either you are doing too much Lashon Hara or somebody else is doing Lashon Hara about you. If you're dreaming about oil signifies enlightenment or acquiring knowledge, or a lot of knowledge is coming your way. If you have dreams about shoes or new shoes, that means that you're about to open up a new business, you're about to make a lot of money. So every time, there's a lot of things out there. So if you try to remember what's the key component of the dream, you can decipher what's the message over there. But remember, we said that it's all about how the person interprets the dream. So for example, when you have a dream, it's very important that you go to a loved one, a family member, a rabbi, or somebody that knows how to interpret a dream. Because God forbid you come to somebody who doesn't have this knowledge, or doesn't know what doesn't have a clue about what we're talking about over here, and you tell them something, tell them about losing your teeth, and they say something dramatic about the outcome. God forbid it might come true, because it depends on the interpreter. So, for example, what if somebody does have a dream about losing teeth? How can you reverse that if it signifies death? So I heard this from, I believe, Rabbi Mansour. One time he says, if a person who already understands about dreams and somebody tells him, I had a dream about losing my teeth, he says, because you're going to be so rich, you don't need your teeth. You're going to have so much money and you can eat all the food in the world, you don't need teeth. In other words, he flipped it around on him. In other words, he was able to take whatever bad news and turn it into good news. And that's very, very important when it comes to dreams. You know, there's also bad dreams. And bad dreams are something that you have to pay attention to. There's some dreams that don't leave a person. They're like, I can't shake this dream off. What do? The rabbis tell us sometimes you have to fast in order to make that bad dream go away, or let alone that outcome. It's so important that the rabbis allow us to even fast on Shabbat. And we're not allowed to fast on Shabbat. We have holidays that we push off because we can't fast on Shabbat. Fasts that are pushed off because we can't fast on Shabbat. Yet, if somebody has a bad dream, the rabbis say fast. But you also have to fast another day during the week for fasting on Shabbat. Keep that in mind. You know, let's go back to Yosef. So you had that dream, right? The 11 stalks of wheat bowing down to one, and what the brothers interpreted, what they say? Oh, what do you think? You're a king, and we're going to bow down to you? What happened?
It happens.
Fast forward a little bit more into the parasha. He does turn into a king, and they do come to Egypt, and they do bow down to him. Whatever happened in the future is their interpretation. Very, very interesting. You know, I always also like to talk about the main character of the parasha. We spoke in previous classes about Abraham. We spoke about Yitzchak, about Yaakov. I'd like to speak a little bit about Yosef HaTzadik. And that's what they call him. They call him Yosef HaTzadik. And why they call him Yosef HaTzadik? Because he was able to protect his yesod, protect the brit. In other words, he was a very handsome man. He was very handsome. And all the women wanted him. They say that when he was walking in the street and the Egyptian women were peeling their potatoes, they'd stare at him and they'd keep peeling until they start to peel their fingers and they wouldn't feel it. Could you imagine? He was so handsome that people would throw at him things, jewelry, gold, notes, please, Yosef, like anything just to catch his attention. And he had a huge challenge with his boss's wife, Potiphar, who is part of Paro's kingdom, one of his sarim. His wife was obsessed with Yosef, to the point that she would change her outfits 3 times a day, and her hairdos, and her perfumes, anything, just trying to seduce him for years. And he withstood that challenge. And we're talking about a young man in his 20s. It's not easy to have one of the most beautiful women in the world changing outfits and looking amazing and doing everything to get your attention. And they say that every time she came over to him, what he would see is an image of Yaakov right in front of his face. And remember, that's not who I am. That's not what my father told me. That's not what I'm supposed to do. And he held strong. Yosef HaTzadik. And he had a huge challenge of having all that beauty and having all that attention and not doing anything with it and staying quote unquote kosher. So if Yosef is Yosef HaTzadik and he is connected to the Yesod or to the Brit or the Tikkun Brit, that's it. Every time you hear about Tikkun Brit, you hear about Yosef HaTzadik. Then I want to take you back to a couple of years ago, to Yosef's grave. Do you remember when they set Yosef's grave ablaze, when it was set on fire and vandalized? A couple of years ago, a couple of vandals, or a few vandals, got to the grave and they vandalized it and they set it on fire. And you start to think, does Yosef deserve this? Does Yosef, this tzaddik, I mean, I'm just touching a little bit of the story of Yosef, of his life, just the beginning. I'm just to make a point. We're talking about dreams and about him, that he's being a tzaddik, but does he deserve this? That his grave should be desecrated like that? I heard a beautiful explanation from Rav Meir Eliyahu, and he says it's not connected to the tzaddik. He didn't do anything. But what does he stand for? Like we said, he stands for Yesod, protecting the Brit. By his grave being set afire, Hashem is sending us a message. He's sending us a message It's a sign of what's wrong with the nation of Israel. He's telling the nation of Israel, Am Yisrael, you have a problem with the Brit. You're not keeping the Brit. You're not keeping it. You're not keeping the Yesod. How is he sending us that message? Through Yosef's grave. He's letting us know we have a problem. The boys are not keeping the Brit. How do we know that? Because Yosef's grave is on fire. So if that's the case, and if that's true, what happened 2 days ago? 2 days ago, they threw a pig's head into Rabbi Nachman's gravesite in Russia. Did you know that? Yes, a few days ago, they threw a pig's head into the rabbi's gravesite. They splattered red paint to signify blood in his tziyun. And again, the question comes, what did this rabbi do to deserve this? And the answer is, he did nothing. This is another message for the Jewish people. What's the message? What's a pig? A pig is an animal that shows itself like this. A little bit later on, I believe when it starts to talk about animals that are kosher or non-kosher, they talk about the pig sitting down with its feet in front of it all the time to show, I have a split hoof. Look at me, I'm kosher. But it doesn't chew its cud. In other words, it shows that externally, I'm something, but internally, I'm something else. It's a pig. And basically the message that we can see here, that 2 days ago, a pig's head was thrown down into the grave of Rabbi Nachman, is to show us that Am Yisrael, externally you're showing yourself one way, but internally you're not. Externally, you got the peot, you got the kippah, you got the tzitziot down to the floor, you got everything that you look the part, but you're not the part. And even regular guys that are just trying to make it, just trying to get chizukim, they go, in shul they look one way, next to the rabbi they talk a certain way, but then, once everything is gone, it's a whole other thing. And this is a beautiful chidush that Mechavruta showed me. This is something that today he shared with me. He says, that's what I see it. And you know what? I agree with him. Is that the pig is to signify that externally we're showing something, internally we're something else. In other words, there's a lot of Jews where we're living in a time where we are not real. And it's time to be real. Let's go back to the parasha. What happens in the parasha? It says over there that Yosef's brothers, they hated him. That's strong words, that's strong language, that his brothers hated him. What does Rashi say over there? Rashi says, Gnaam ze shivcham. Meaning this insult that I'm giving them is actually, it's their praise. I'm telling them that they're hating on their brother, but I'm praising them that they're hating their brother. What does that mean? In other words, they were real. They didn't put up a face. They didn't put up a front. They didn't lie. They didn't say, Yosef, oh, how you doing? You're our brother. And then when he went away, they spoke behind his back. They couldn't lie. They were real. They were straight. To his face, we hate you. We don't like you. But actually says, you know what? That's a good quality. That's a good quality when somebody can be real. When somebody can say the truth to somebody's face. And that's what we learned from here. From this week's parasha, from Yosef's brothers, showing that they are real, and we're seeing in Rabbi Nachman Mibeslev's gravesite that the pig is showing us that there is a sign that maybe the Jews not being real in this day and age. You see that there's a connection of the current events of what's going on. So, I'd like to wish for everyone to be real. Be real. Be amiti. Be a real Jew. Inside and out. That's the real nachat ruach that you give to Kadosh Baruch Hu. That you're not one thing in the AM and a different thing in the PM. One thing on Shabbat, different thing on the weekend, on the weekdays. Find your true self. Be real. Hashem is telling us that's what I want from you. Rashi is telling us that's a great quality. Somebody who's real, good or bad. And Be'ezat Hashem, that will merit to have good dreams. And have our dreams and be interpreted into good interpreted dreams, and that Be'ezat Hashem will get to the time of Mashiach without all these obstacles and without all these signs in our tzaddikim's grave sites. שהשם יברך אתכם, ישמח אתכם, שבת שלום.
Beautiful.
Amen.